The Pokémon Company International just dropped the 2025 Championship Series season rules and changes. And with it came a lot of discussion from the community. Not a lot of it was very positive. So, in today's video, I'm going to break down all of those changes, talk about it, discuss it, and see why there was so much hate for these changes from the community. So let's hop into the video. Let's talk about it. All right, so here we are with the Play Pokemon announcement on Twitter where they announced all the rules and changes for the 2025 championship season. So let's take a look. And I'm going to go through all of this because, well, I don't want to miss anything and I don't want to leave anything out. I really want to understand why everybody is so frustrated with these changes. So, after another exciting season of battles across Pokemon TCG, Pokemon video games, and Pokemon Go, we're ready to announce a suite of changes coming to the 2025 circuit that include adjustments to the World Championship qualification system, championship points updates, and more. The 2025 Pokemon Championship Series will run from July 2024 to May 2025, with the exceptions of the 2025 North American International Championships and the 2025 Pokemon World Championships. More information regarding the 2025 Pokemon Unite Championship Series and its place in the broader 2025 Pokemon Championship Series will be shared after the 2024 World Championships in August. I'll be honest, that's the first time I've read that, and that actually scares me for the Pokemon Unite community. Because there is actually no information about the Pokemon Unite Championship Series, and that's, I mean, I don't play in Unite enough, but just reading that doesn't make me feel great about that. Like, just in general, that feels weird. So check in with your Pokemon Unite friends, because I don't know if that's bad or not. Now, the World Championships qualification update, and this is one of the big areas that's popping up on Twitter. And like I said, we'll go through some of the stuff that's happening on Twitter, and I really definitely want to see some of the community responses to this, because there were a lot. Now, the qualification system for the Pokemon World Championships is changing for the 2025 season. In 2025, a set number of players from each rating zone, age division, and game will earn an invitation to the World Championship based on their championship points leaderboard standings. And that is a big one. It is now based on your leaderboard standings for your world invite, something we didn't have in these last couple of years. This update applies to Pokemon TCG, Pokemon video game, and Pokemon Go players. Most recently, invitations were based on a fixed CP threshold that players needed to accumulate to receive an invitation. Now, the big reason about that was that there was a $500 point CP bar that people needed to reach in order to get to Worlds. And the great thing about that was that you didn't need to hit that $500, I don't know why I keep saying $500, but that 500 point bar in any way that you wanted to. You had locals that you could reach out to, you had your MSS, you had your PCs, you had your regionals, you had your internationals. There were all these events that you could attend how you wanted to, depending on your financial situations, whatever made it end up being. You had options to reach that $500 bar point. Was it easy? No, by all means, no. It is not easy to get 500 points. I mean, it is it's still very, very hard. I think only roughly around 260 people from the United States in the Master Division made it into Worlds. So, I mean, it wasn't like it was a massive number. It was still hard, but it was attainable for a lot of people. It still felt within reach. And that's, I think, where a lot of the hate is coming from in these new changes, because it was in reach. A lot of people feel like it's not quite so far much in reach anymore. And we'll get into that in here in a sec. In addition to the players who qualify via championship points, individual top performers at major events will earn automatic invitations to Pokemon World Championships. Regional and special champions will receive an invitation, and the top 4 finishers of each international championship will earn an invitation. So, you win a regional, you win a special event, and or if you are a top 4 placement in IC, you will get an invite to Worlds. That's it. You just automatically get an invite to Worlds. Invites earned through this method will not count against the total invitation slots for that player's rating zone. That is good, because obviously, like, if we're having guaranteed people throughout events, say there's 25, I'm just ballparking number, 25 people who automatically get invited. That means that only 50 people would get invites through points, if that was the case, but it's not. So if you do just get an automatic invite, it doesn't end up taking out of the people trying to go for that 75. That is good to hear, at least. As the Pokemon Championship Series continues to grow, this adjustment will provide a variety of long-term benefits. I don't know if I believe that one. But this includes balancing player qualification across all rating zones to foster diverse competition, ensuring that we're prepared to provide the best competitor experience possible at the Pokemon World Championships, and better supporting the growth of the Pokemon Championship Series as a whole. The way that I'm reading this is that the regional championships were too much for them this last year. They set multiple records for different regionals, having just massive amounts of player turnout. I'll be honest with you, I think that, and this is just my first initial opinion, I think a lot of these changes are coming from them realizing that there was a lot of players and it was a little bit of a struggle for them to deal with it. And I think this actually limits the amount of people that will be attending regionals events, which will make their job easier at those events, which is kind of where it came into providing them the best experience possible. Well, if they limit the amount of people that are there, it makes it easier for them to take care of the people that are actually at the event. That's my initial thought. I could be wrong, but that's my thought process on that statement. We also look forward to sharing more about a championship points season reward program for trainers who show great dedication to the Play Pokemon program, which operates similar to the fixed CP threshold from recent years. It's good to hear, but we don't know anything about that yet. So I don't know if this is going to be some sort of reward for people who play in local events. I hope so, because at the moment, the way that it's set up, people who play in local events are going to struggle. So I don't know. There's still a lot of the problem with this is that they didn't answer all the questions immediately. They kind of left some things up in the air, which leaves things up for interpretation. Whenever you leave things up for interpretation, people will go towards the worst case scenario. Well, they can't help that. You didn't give them the information. So, I wish that they would have fully thought all of this out and gave us everything right off the bat instead of giving us half of it and then saying they'll give us the other half later. That's probably one of the most frustrating parts about this. So, there's that. I mean, there is a possibility for some other things to be added, but who knows what they're going to be. Now, for the Pokemon TCG Championship, it's all pretty much the exact same as far as, across the board. They're only letting 75 to 125 people in per video game. TCG gets a few more people in their events because they've generally been bigger from what I know. Pokemon Go gets the same as, I believe, Pokemon VGC? Where's this VGC at? Oh, yeah. Pokemon VGC and Pokemon Go are literally the exact same as far as their attendance, so there's no change to them. TCG does get a few more, but realistically, instead of having that 500 point bar where if you reached above it, you got your invite, now it's the top 75 or 125, whatever. It's the top players. So now you have to, on the CP bar, it doesn't just end at 500. Like before, you got 500, you just be like, okay, well, I got it. There are some players that go to 600, 700, 800 CP, and they keep going because they've accumulated and they're able to get all those points from the events they attend. Which means that the bar to actually hit Worlds is not 500 anymore. You're probably looking at more like 650. So in all, again, they say that they're only letting in the top 75. Well, there is then a bar, because if you go and look at the championship point leaderboard where everybody is, you can see that most of the people in the top 75 have over 600. So now you're actually upping the bar up a little bit more. And so there's that. It limits the amount of people that are going to be getting invites to Worlds. So that's one thing. It did make it so that and a lot of people in the community are saying that, they're not able to reach that point because it's, the top 75. And I get it. There's no longer just a bar to reach of just breaking a certain point threshold. It's now I have to try to stay within a top 75 area where I could either fall out of it when somebody bumps up. You can either getting into that place to getting your invite and then lose it later on. You have to stay within that area, which sucks. Instead of just breaking past a certain bar and going, I've achieved it. So I can see that being an issue for a lot of people. I mean, rightfully so. For me, it's frustrating. Okay, so now under the VGC, these are underneath the player limits that will be coming. It also says, in conjunction with the new Worlds qualification system, CP tables have been realigned for greater parity across games. Best finish limit, kickers, and prizing have all been updated for clarity. See below for a full CP table that encompasses Pokemon TCG, VGC, and Pokemon Go competitions or competitors. 2025 Championship Points, League and Global Challenge. So these are your leagues and your global challenges. You now have different point structures. To be honest, in the area that I'm in Alabama, I haven't had a local or anything like that in so long, and I don't have access of driving 4 hours to the one near me. So I haven't really dabbled in much of the local league kind of stuff like that. So I don't know exactly how much these changes have affected that. Just because it's not something that I regularly attend or go to. So sorry for my lack of knowledge on that part, but there is a full change in the championship points for league and global challenges. 2025 championship events. So now these are for regionals and special events and international. These are how many points you are going to actually get for those different placements. Obviously, if you get first place in a regional, you're automatically invited, so it doesn't matter. But if you win a regional, you get 750 points. Great, that's so many points. But if you even think about it, like right here, so like second place at an IC is, I mean, it may not automatically get you an invite to Worlds, but it might as well, because 700 CP is gonna break pretty much that threshold by itself, and you're probably gonna be within that top 75 just from that placement. So like, yeah, or whatever. But like, there's definitely going to be, you know, and I think that this kicker part is going to be one of the bigger things that takes a hit, because, well, I'll be honest with you, these last season, the 2024 season that we had, we broke multiple regional records for attendance. I don't think that's happening in this next season. I'll be 100% honest with you. I don't think we're breaking any regional attendance records in this next season, because of how many people are so frustrated with the changes. It's just not going to happen. So these kicker numbers aren't going to matter as much, and we're not going to be getting as many of these kickers. I almost guarantee you. Now, the Pokemon VGC event names, Pokemon VGC players, take note, 2 store level competitions are getting a name change. Mid-season showdown is now called the Video Game League Cup, and the Premier Challenge is now known as the Video Game League Challenge. This aligns the names more closely to equivalent Pokemon TCG and Pokemon Go events. Doesn't really change anything in that one. Booster packs and cash prizing. Players will receive Pokemon TCG booster packs for competing Pokemon TCG, Pokemon video games, and Pokemon Go Championships events. The number of booster packs earned is based on individual placement as well as the number of participants in the event. Prizing is dependent on the attendance of the event, is referred to as a kicker. We're expanding the booster pack prize kicker in the 2025 season for the majority of championships events. Here's a breakdown of booster packs. Again, this whole kicker thing, I think, is really going to be one of those things that isn't going to matter as much, because it's just not going to have as much attendance. I'll be honest, the Orlando, I think, had like 700. I doubt you break 400 this year. Like, it's just, there's not going to be as much of attendance. I know from me personally, I'm not going to be attending as many regionals. I know a couple of my friends who were just, you know, kind of at that point where they were attending regionals and they were maybe, you know, like 350 to 400 CP. They were getting close to a world invite. A lot of those players aren't going to be attending as many regionals. So that's my take. I don't think the kicker is going to matter as much. It's going to be there, obviously. You're still going to get some kickers, but it's not going to be like what we were expecting these last season. Cash prizes are also on the line at regional, international, world championships. Last year saw a substantial increase, and we're maintaining these prize values for the 2025 Championship Series season. The format of each prize depends on the age of the recipient. 18 years of age and older, awards of 5,000 or more, choice of scholarship or cash. Awards under 5,000, cash. Under 18 years of age, awards of 5,000 or more, choice of scholarship or Pokemon Visa prepaid card. Those don't really matter. Those are just how they give out prizes. Prizes and prize distribution may be subject to change unless otherwise specified. All prizes are paid in US dollars and are subject to applicable tax withholding. Prize winners should consult a qualified tax professional regarding their tax obligations. So we have all of our prizing and stuff for the different events. I actually don't know how much this has actually changed from the previous. They said that they've kept it the same. But what I'm going to do really quick is I'm actually going to pull up the 2024 Pokemon, like the championship prizings, and see if it's the same. So one sec. All right, so here we are with the 2024 payouts and prizes, and from what I can tell, it looks like everything is the same from the year from 2024 to 2025. I don't see any changes. Everything seems pretty much the exact same as it was on the last page. So that hasn't changed. The pricing is still actually the same. So there is that. All right, so here we are to another one of the changes for the 2025 season. And this is the change for the Swiss tournament format and Top Cut. And from what I've seen on Twitter, this is one of the smaller areas that people are actually okay with. So that's kind of been my initial thought on this one. Similar to the 2024 World Championship, shifts to the Swiss tournament format and method for determining which players advance to the top cut will continue throughout the rest of the 2025 series season. For special championships, regional championships, international championships, and the World Championships, Pokemon TCG and video game tournaments will be played in a more conventional Swiss round count, plus an additional round rather than the modified version of the Swiss format used in recent season. So we are probably never going to break this threshold ever. I'll be honest. We didn't break this last year. We're not breaking this year. You're never going to get a 12, 13, 14 round regional. There's no flipping way. Not happening. Just not happening. Maybe for some of the other events like Worlds and Internationals, but like, holy smokes. You're probably more looking like right here. Probably looking at most regionals being at around a 10 round Swiss. Which means we're going to have day one. So we're going to have day one Swiss rounds. We're going to get 8. 2 more on the next day. Day 2 match points threshold will be 18. And day 2 Swiss rounds will be 2. So like, this is probably the area we're going to be looking at for most of our regionals for attendance. Swiss round breakdown details for tournaments with fewer than 33 participants will be clarified at a later date. I mean, you might have to worry about that, to be honest. After all Swiss rounds are completed, the top 8 competitors plus all competitors with the same number of match points as 8th place to a maximum of 32 will advance to the asymmetrical top cut single elimination bracket and determine the winner of the event. However, all this changes, the Swiss will promote more streamlined tournament days to improve both the flow of the event and potential daily fatigue. Also great. Fatigue is massive in the Pokemon games. I remember playing 9 rounds of Swiss straight out and it sucks. It was really, really hard. So I appreciate that, to be honest, and limiting and kind of making the actual tournament day a little bit more manageable for the players. That's fantastic. Overall, this change to Swiss will promote more streamlined tournament. I already read that. For Top Cut, this update allows competitors a way to better advance in a tournament based on their skills while reducing factors that are partially out of their control, such as the opponent's match win percentage. So I think what ends up happening and what I've read at kind of like some things is there's going to be less bubbling of people that have records that should be making them into Top Cut. It was an issue that like there would be people with specific records that would make them available to make like a day 2, but because of their resistance and because of so many other people being at the same, like they ended up being below that threshold for the day 2 cut. And so even though they had a good enough record to make Top Cut, they bubbled out by being lower than other people in the regards to their resistance. And I think that's one of the things they're going to remove and limit is that people will get to make Top Cut if they made the right like run through the tournament. They won't get bubbled out, which is a good thing. We'll take a good thing out of this. So there's our one good thing that I've seen so far. At-home competition, more online tournaments are coming to the 2025 season, giving players more opportunities to make progress toward earning an invitation to the Pokemon World Championships. We're getting more global events. Like, how's that going to take effect? Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet players can look forward to more global challenge events throughout the season. Okay, so instead of 3, we get 4 or 5. Pokemon Unite will also continue to be supported by online tournaments as a part of its path to Worlds, with additional details being announced alongside the rest of the Unite Championship Series information. At the beginning of the video, I was a little bit concerned, but that makes me feel a little bit better about this. At least it seems like there's a plan. That first initial paragraph seemed like there was no plan for them, and that was rough. Let's see here. So regional championships and special championships. All regional championships and special championships are planned to feature Pokemon TCG, Pokemon video games, and Pokemon Go. Regional championships main events will take place on Saturday and Sunday. Event listings that include a Friday date feature side events and smaller competitors on that day. Competitions on that day. Special championships award the same number of championship points as a regional championships, but all of the rewards at the discretion of the event organizer. Special championships are noted in green on the schedule below. The event schedule will be updated as more events are announced. That's cool. So like you get your special events, and they give enough championship points as some of the regionals. So going and making sure that you're doing those is probably a good thing. There are only 3 of them. One is in Peru, one is in Argentina, and one is in Colombia. So, So as more events are out, so hopefully there will be more, but I mean, there's only 3 and they're not even anywhere near anywhere. Like there's none in any of the places in the United States. They are literally all in countries outside the United States. Just, I mean, it's fine, but it sucks for people in the United States because there isn't any. So hopefully they add some more. And now we come to the international championships, and these are, I think, really one of the biggest kind of areas of frustration for a lot of the people in the community, and I'll explain that as we kind of transition over to Twitter to see some of the comments stuff about this. Now, international competitions there are 3 of them, and as we saw before, they provide an absolutely insane amount of championship points for the people competing, which means that if you have access to travel to these events, you have a higher level of chance of getting the championship points you need to get to the top 75 to get your world's invite. And so now we take this, you know, look, I mean, it's literally almost doubled in the championship points you get for ICs. So where a lot of the people in the community are causing the stir and kind of frustration is that if you have the ability to travel to all 3 of these international competitions and get those points, you are pretty much setting yourself up to get into a really good spot for Worlds. And a lot of people on Twitter are calling them wallet warriors. This is one of those derogatory terms that we've kind of brought around in the Pokemon VGC community for people that have a lot of money and can travel to every event, thus giving them more points than people who, say, don't have access to a lot of money, who maybe have a job, have kids, can't afford to travel to every international because, I mean, you have to go to Europe, Latin America, and somewhere in the United States for 3 tournaments to get a bunch of points. One, traveling to all 3 for most people is completely unfeasible. Traveling to 2 is really hard. Traveling to 1 is hard enough, and then having to travel to 0 means that you're probably missing out on hundreds and hundreds of championship points, meaning that your chances of making a world invite are pretty much slim to none. That is where a lot of people are really angry and frustrated with this situation, and why a lot of that is coming out. It's right there. And I get it. I get both sides. If I have money and I can travel to events, why am I being targeted, and why, but at the same time, if I don't have a lot of money and I can't travel to events, absolutely it's going to make me frustrated. But I think a lot of the frustration are being put against the 2 players. You know, the players with not enough money are irritated at the players with money, and the players with money are telling the players without money, well, just play better. Like, there's a lot of hate and headbutting happening between those 2 player groups, when in all reality, it's not either of your fault. It's just the game that we've been given, and we're just trying to enjoy it how we can. And unfortunately, we can't because of the changes that have been implemented on it. So, for the love of everything, community, stop hating on each other and hate the changes that happened that made it this way. Don't hate the players. Hate the game, man. Simple as that. Simple as that. Because they're just doing it. If they've got money, why are you blaming them? They earned it. They can go and do these events. It sucks. Trust me, I'm one of the players who doesn't have a lot of money and can't travel to events. So trust me, I get where you're coming from. But I'm not hating on the people that have money and can travel events. Props to them, man. It's the Pokemon Company that kind of shafted us. So direct your frustration at them, man. That's all I gotta say. Now, we've kind of talked about some of the things that are bothering people. Let's go over to Twitter. Let's take a look at what people are saying. All right, so here we are on Twitter with the Play Pokemon post. And, well, this post has a ton of comments and a ton of different standpoints, viewpoints on what ended up happening. So let's take a look at them because, well, this is how the community feels about it. And I want to kind of take a look because some of them brought up some really good points and things that I may not have thought about, which is fantastic. That's the reason why we have this amazing community. Y'all are absolutely amazing. Obviously, this is my kind of standpoint. I'll be honest with you, the way that the changes are, I only travel to maybe 1 or 2 events during the year. I don't have any locals in my area. They're roughly 3.5 to 4 hours away from me. I'm a stay-at-home dad on disability with a fixed income. You're not going to see me traveling to international competitions, and my regional events are limited. So to be 100% honest, I am definitely one of the players that just realize that now the bar is too far to reach, and I will not be striving for Worlds invite. The only way I'm going to get a Worlds invite is if I go to one of the regionals I go to during the year, the 1 or 2 that I go to, and winning it. Cool, fine. Like, if that's how I get my World invite, fantastic. But I'm not banking on it, and I'm not going to, there's no real push for me wanting to play competitively. I'll be honest, that was a change that happened from this last season because during the 2024 season, I made about 100 championship points. And I only did that with 1 event or so, maybe a little extra. But like, I realized that during that season, I was like, you know what? I've done really well in the 2 regional I've gone to. I've made points in both of them. I have the skills and the ability to do this, and 500 isn't that bad. If I maybe go to another regional or 2, or if I go to the and North American International Championship, who knows? Maybe I could qualify. It's not gonna happen. I'll be honest with you. It's not in reach for me, and that's fine. I'm okay with that. It sucks, but it's a reality thing. So my drive to want to actually play like IRL events or even travel to a local, like before, there was even times where I was like, man, I might even travel that 3 hours to that local. No, it's never gonna. I'll be honest. I'm not gonna do it. There's no point for me at this point with the way the structure is. That's how it is. So let's see. Feel like this paragraph is really important, taking into account the other changes. This could be good. We also look forward to sharing more about the championship point season reward program. That's the thing we said. It sucked that the actual thing only came out with like half of the information that was kind of needed. Like they didn't fully give us everything, and if they would have just told us some of the other stuff they had planned, it might have made this blow a little bit easier in the community. We might not have gotten so frustrated. As someone who's new to competing seriously, can someone else tell me about changes to me? So responded to him, told him like, yeah, it's really like it's almost impossible to go. Only 75 chance to get a world's invite in my entirety of NA. I can name 75 players who will lock those in easily. No new casual player has the means to even try to compete for that. The first year I wanted to take VGC seriously, and I have no reason to now. LOL. That's what's up. And yeah, that's a common feeling with a lot of people in the community. It's like, there's 75 people that are going to be playing. You can name off a massive chunk of the top players in the region, and they're probably going to make that list every single time. Just how it is. They're really good. They play this game regularly. They have events planned out, scheduled every year, and that's what they do. And again, nothing wrong to them. They're fantastic players. They're all really amazing, and they do well because they have taken time to do well in the game. So nothing against them. It's just everybody below them. Like, what's the point? And I think that's kind of the thing that a lot of people are missing. It's like, for the rest of us, just play the game then. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and that's kind of, I think, where a lot of us are coming from, and a lot of the frustration that we're having. All right, so on to the next one here. The next one says, no BFL for ICs. That is a best finish limit. And there's something new that they added into this. We didn't talk about it yet, but I will actually pull it up here just after this comment so we know what they're talking about. But no BFL limit for ICs turns the season into be rich or give up when we have to be top 75. What a joke. Just say you want to kill the VGC scene straight up if this is what you want. Now, best finish limit is something that they have implemented for the Pokemon tournament series. Basically, best finish limit. To provide a more even playing field for the largest number of competitors worldwide, each event series has a best finish limit. If players play in more events than the best finish limit cap, their top performance will be registered and the rest discarded. So, when we're talking about the top, 75 players, if they attend every single event, they're going to accumulate this just horde of points, 800, 900 points. So what this is doing is this is basically saying that if you're attending a massive amount of events, what we're going to do is we're actually going to cut out some of the lower finishes so that you don't have that many points. So maybe you lose 100 to 200 points. Cool. That can help out with people who don't travel to every event and could help minimize and level that out. The problem is that what they're talking about is that there is no BFL limit on the international competitions. And we saw earlier, the international competitions have the absolute highest championship point payout. So if I can go to all 3 international championships, get paid out for the highest amount of points, I am setting myself up very, very pretty. And that is where the frustration comes about the whole be rich or give up. Because if I can travel to all 3 of the international championships, I'm setting myself up to be in a really good position where people who can't are going to be put in a really bad position. That is where a lot of this wallet warrior frustration is coming from. And again, I've said this once, but man, that frustration at those people being wallet warriors is just, it's not in the right place. Don't be mad at somebody because they've done well in life and they've made money. They're just playing the game. What you should be frustrated about is that the Pokemon Company didn't put a BFL on the ICs. That is on Pokemon. That is their fault entirely. And they've opened up the door to allow the rest of the 90% of the Pokemon community to be frustrated at the 10% who can travel to all of them. So, like, Again, stop hating the players, man. We are the community. Hate the company who made these changes. It's simple as that. But again, I get the frustration. Just, it's not at the right person. GG's to those with the biggest wallets. Again, people are frustrated. They can't go to those international events. They aren't going to be able to get it. And so the frustration is being taken out on the wrong people. That's my thought on that one. Terrible changes aside, why are you guys so insistent on dodging New York every chance you get? New York has an absolute massive player base for Pokemon VGC, and is the reason why a lot of people are frustrated they don't actually have regional events and things that happen there, because they would be very, very large. And we talked about it earlier. I think that's probably the reason why Pokemon doesn't run an event in New York, is because it would probably cost a lot of money. It would be very, very large. There would be a lot of problems, and overall it would just be easier for them to post it somewhere else where people would have to travel to it, and they could accommodate the people a little bit better. Probably why you don't have New York ones. Just saying. People complaining this makes it harder for more casual VGC players, and I don't really see the issue. It's the World Championship. Of course there's a high skill floor for entry. Nothing is stopping you from attending as a spectator and playing with other people in the venue. I get it. The Worlds is absolutely it's the pinnacle of VGC. There should be the best players there. The only problem is that the way the Pokemon Company set up the structure for this season means that there are benefits to having more money, which means that if you have more money, you potentially have a higher edge at making the points you need to make that. And that's where it's wrong. It's not wrong that you have more money. It's the fact that Pokemon Company set up so that people with more money have a better chance. That is the problem. Like, that's it. Simple as that. I have no problem with the sentiment that Worlds should be all the best players. It should be. It shouldn't be all the players with the most money. There's that. Toronto in December. Ooh, Ezra's going to Toronto! Play Pokemon. Does this mean regionals and internationals share a best finish limit? I actually haven't looked at that one. I don't know. That would be the only thing that makes sense. Otherwise, games become even more pay to win. No, internationals do not have a best finish limit. They already said there is not one. Oh, or maybe there is. Well, no. I don't know. That's really weird, though. Yeah, because, like, if there wouldn't be, that would, like, there's only 3 internationals. So, like, I don't know. That feels really weird. Like, that's the thing. Like, there is no, like, if this was 2 or 1, probably a lot better, but there isn't anything here, which means that there's only 3 internationals. If the BFL is 6, well, unless it's clumped where the regionals are the same thing as internationals. Okay, that might help. But again, the internationals, I think they should be separated into their own category because they provide double the amount of championship points. But again, this is a really wonky area, and Professor Tiberius brings up a really good point. That is actually super weird, and it would be nice to have a little clarification. Andrew Armstrong says this is going to destroy VGC. Congrats. And I had that exact same notion. I really just don't think this is going to be conducive to the newer players, the mid-tier level players who are really trying to get into the game, learn it, and get to that point. The last season structure made the goals and things in reach attainable, and now it feels like it's just a waste of time. So you're probably going to see a lot less people in the community. People are going to quit, do other things. I've seen so many posts of people saying they don't want to play in the 25 season. It's actually kind of wild. So Paulo VGC, there is no doubt that the best way to achieve the family-friendly ambient in your competitive scene you promote is to change the world CP system into a fiery battle to qualify. It doesn't make any sense. I have no idea what I'm doing. This is the Pokemon Company sitting behind the desk making the rules. I don't know what we're doing. Changes feel more about if you have the money than if you have the skill. Glad I opted to focus on YouTube than focus on attending events the last few years. And again, a simple few changes from the Pokemon Company where they could make it so it doesn't feel like it's a money-based system to everybody else would be great. It just need to fix this. Like, again, most of the system they set up now isn't terrible. I'm not upset about most of the system. If it's the top 75 players make it to World, great. just don't make it so that if you have a ton of money, you can get into that part easier than people without money. Like, that's just like, damn it. Like, that's the one thing. I don't understand why spectators have a hard time getting passes to attend. I mean, valid. Heads up for anyone who during 2025 feels like they may have enough points to qualify for Worlds. Only book hotels that offer free cancellation. Last thing you want is to pay for an non-refundable hotel, then in June find out you're 76th in the rankings and didn't make the cut. And we talked about that. You know, you could totally be 74th, 73rd, whatever, and then after something happens, you can be bumped down and not qualify anymore. So you're not always guaranteed. You don't have that bar to hit and then you're in it. It's more like you hit it and like you got to maintain. You got to maintain. It's going to be a little more difficult. If your graph is correct here, this is going to kill a scene. Limit the IC BFL to 1, otherwise it's literally just going to come down to who has the biggest wallet instead of the actual best players. Regional tennis will take a massive hit. I feel the exact same way. I feel like that is an absolutely perfectly rational thought to have in this situation. Limiting the IC's BFL to 1 or 2 and really just not blasting your regionals into the dirt would be great. I think that's probably, like I said, I think that's the biggest issue, is there's no BFL on the internationals. That's 90% of the people's problems, and the reason why the Wallet Warrior thing's coming out. Like that, it's the internationals. It's your biggest problem right now. If you want players to take this as serious as a full-time job, pay them a wage. Valid. Congrats to masterfully crafting the worst possible qualification method. You killed the game. Cash prices are also in line at regional, international, world championships. Last year saw a substantial increase, and we're maintaining these prize values for the 2025 Championship Series season. Then shows a lowered prize table. I don't think this is right, because I was just on there, and I don't think this is how it actually showed up. I could be wrong, but I don't think that's actually how it is right now. That might have been changed or fixed. Having top X qualify but no BFL and ICs effectively means that people who are able to go to 2 or 3 ICs are at a massive advantage, because you do get double points ICs. They are huge. Please lower the BFL of ICs to 1, otherwise half your qualifiers will be Wallet Warriors. Again, we've only read through maybe 10 comments, and that's been one of the top 2 comments out of it. And it's where most of the frustration is coming from. It's the ICs being kind of broken. I mean, everything, even Moxie boosted posts about the ICs being a problem. Like, that is right now the 100% biggest problem they have with the way this tournament structure is set up, and the reason why people are getting pissed off about Wallet Warriors. Like, they really got to kind of nail down this international challenge thing, because those are... They're really hurting it, man. That's definitely like, we're not seeing really much else about, like, you know, the top 75 making it. Like, there's really not many comments about that, because, well, it's the top players, it's Worlds. It's about the ICs and money. Like, that's really the biggest argument. And it sucks that they just couldn't have foreseen that and made sure to fix it. Nice job making the game almost unplayable for almost 90% of the community. Old system gave everybody a shot at playing a game they love. That's now gone. And I mean, yeah, so if I go to locals, I only make, 20, 30, CP, but somebody's going to all 3 internationals and they just made, 700 to 1,000 CP. Why am I going to my locals? Like, it's not gonna, like, I get it. And that's, again, that's how a lot of people are feeling. Can we have a veteran division for old people like me who are in their 30s and don't have time to travel to multiple ICs and regionals? I can get on that, dude. Yes, make a veteran, make an old senior, give us that old member discount, man. Come on. Love that, dude. That's fantastic. Cat, GG guys, spend months massively figuring out how to make this as player unfriendly as possible. The way these changes absolutely shaft regions like the Middle East is frankly deplorable. 5 juniors, seniors, yet no special event at all means you essentially force ME players to fly out of region to even compete. South Africa gets 2 special events per year. How is that fair? So yeah, I think there was a couple of regions that got completely just like nixed out of this 100%. So Middle East was one that has started to kind of get like a Unite and VGC scene. They've been working on it, and from the sounds of it, I've seen in a couple of comments, there is literally nothing happening in that region for who knows what region. So that's kind of unfortunate. Yay, Secret Santa changed the Toronto homies. Oh, 61 doesn't convert anymore. Oh, unfortunate. Oh, that's funny. It's over. The Pokemon teaches you doomed to fail if you're not part of the elitist scum. You can't make worlds. It's pay to win. I can't believe this. Pokemon hates the working class. Girl, I'm so mad. I think that's a joke. But also what most people are saying. Ripping this take from Enjo Friend. This is a great change. World should be for top tier players. Make qualifying hard for new players. Should help force them to set more realistic goals. I was victim of the worlds or bust mentality when starting, and it was harmful for me. Now, two kind of takes out of this one. I don't mind worlds being, hard to get to. It's worlds. I also don't realize, I think that they realize the scope of what they said as far as the, setting more realistic goals. Again, you got to understand that the Pokemon Company set up the tournament structure for this series to be very favorable to people with a lot of money. And that's based on how they set up the tournament. So, telling people to set more realistic goals is kind of wild because, my goals is different than somebody like Wolfie, who has a full YouTube channel, has no family, kids, and can travel to every event. It's very different. But the fact that it's removed my ability to even think about wanting to compete. Before, I absolutely had the skill to go 6-3, 7-2, and make a day 2 event. Absolutely. But now, if the only way to do that is to travel to all 3 ICs, I can't travel to any of them. I'm not going to make worlds, and that is the end. That's kind of how it is. So, again, it's more on the actual tournament structure and not on the fact that based on more realistic goals. The reality is that worlds should be, with the way that Pokemon has set this up, there should be ways for all of us to get invited to worlds based on what we have available. There are locals that should be able to help us out. There are regionals that should be able to help us out. There are international competitions that we can be able to travel to. But it shouldn't mean that having access to travel to all the events means that you have an upper hand. Because the ICs have such a higher level of championship point give out, there are limits happening on the regional events that aren't happening on ICs. Like that's where it is. It's the structure of the event. Bottom line. So those are the 2025 Pokemon Championship Season Series changes that will be happening. There's a lot of them. Some of them are good. A lot of them, unfortunately, are not really all that great and weren't really, as far as I can tell, thought through as well. There are definitely areas where there could be a little bit of fixing and helping to make the community feel a little bit more cohesive and together, instead of feeling like wallet warriors, as people are saying, are going to run this event, which I feel like is valid from both sides. Like, we really just need to take some time, think about this, and I don't think that these restructuring in a way that they set up is the best outcome for the community. I think that simple few changes could make this a really great way of having these tournaments, these changes actually take effect. And one of those is just simply limiting you're putting the limit on the ICs. I think if you do that, you would probably make a massive amount of this community so much happier. And then also not giving us all the information. Like, give us, if you're going to do an update about the 2025 season, have it all ready so that we know about it and we don't start doomsday, blowing up in our brains thinking this is the end of VGC. There were part of it that, like the whole locals and the other things that you've had, you teased at it, but you didn't give us the information. So you gave us a really just like a terrible, like, hey, ICs, you're going to be able to, you go to all the ICs and you win. But then you didn't give the people that like are local people that like to travel to locals any information about their locals. And so like a lot of this came from one, you set up the tournament structure really a little bit weird and you didn't give us all the information. Like, come on. If you're going to post an update, give us all the information. Probably would have made this go just a little bit easier. Overall, though, as we were growing these last couple years, things obviously needed to change. We had, really good last year, but there were also some issues that happened during that last year. Some of the events went on too long. We had 9-10 rounds of Swiss in a day. People were getting really fatigued. Some of those things are getting fixed and changed. So, like, obviously, things are going to change over the years. It's bound to happen. Change is going to happen. Change is never easy to deal with, and that's okay. We are creatures of habit, and when our habits change, it gets a little bit frustrating. So The only thing is, though, is that these changes were a little bit drastic and a little bit like not so thought through. So the only thing that I ask is that anybody who's watched this video, stop taking it out on the community. Don't take it out on the wallet warriors. Don't even call them that. It's not very nice. It's not their fault they have money. Well, actually, it is their fault they have money. They earned it. Don't be mad at them. Don't be mad at the players who can't travel to events and are sad that they can't go to them. Don't be hating on the community. At the end of the day, we should all be focusing a lot of our attention on the Pokemon Company and working at finding ways to help alleviate some of these changes and letting them know our frustrations. That is where we should be focusing our energy and our drive at this moment. Not at each other. That's it. I know it sucks. I know not a lot of people are happy, but this is the game that we have. This is the game that we play. This is the game that we love. And if we want changes, it's up to us to voice them and go about it correctly. So, support tickets. There are people posting up petitions. There are all sorts of ways to go about this collectively in a positive mean and going forward. Let's not go backwards, fam. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you have a fantastic day on the Paldea, Kitakami, and the new Terrarium region. And until next time, trainers, peace out.